So hi Nancy, how you doing? Great, thank you very much. It's really nice to have you on our channel. As you already know, with Plogix, we like to share the stories of our artists to obviously share with our viewers a little bit more in-depth information about their journey, how they got started into art, the kind of art that they do, of course, and get to know a little bit more the artist kind of in depth, if you will. So maybe just to get started, if you can give us a little bit of an intro. I know that you're obviously based in the States, but maybe a little bit more about how you got into art, your artistic background, your journey, and a little bit more about your background.
Okay. Well, how I got into art, I guess I've always been drawn to art since at the earliest age. I've always wanted to create things, paint, write poetry, make music, that sort of thing. But and when I painted a few pictures when I was a teenager, and I remember being completely enthralled with it, thinking, this is what I want, this is what I want to do. Like I love this, but then I got sidetracked by life and got a career and had a family and didn't paint. And then in 2011, I broke my ankle and I was out of work and on the couch for 6 weeks. And that was the time I picked up my paintbrush and started painting, like seriously painting. And I never stopped since. So that's since 2011. I've been painting regularly. Um, I started out in Grand Rapids. They have this art competition called ArtPrize where it's open to the public and it's like a pedestrian art show. And they have like 1,000 or 2,000 entrants. Anyway, in 2011 is right when that was 2012, I did my first entry into ArtPrize, and it was a 20-foot long, 8 foot tall mural of a tugboat in a harbor. But that was a big project, and it was really big. It was hard to find a place to paint it and to buy all the supplies. So I, out of necessity, had to do a smaller project the next year. So then I painted one the next year that was like 6 feet tall, 4 feet wide. I would still call that a mural. And then the next year I switched to watercolors because I was having trouble with the portability of the acrylics and where I was taking them to paint and stuff. And I switched to watercolor. And then anyway, I kept doing art prize for about 8 to 9 years in a row. I really had a lot of fun with that, made connections, met some other artists, met some other art businesses and things, kind of got me more motivated. And I just kept painting and it just feels I think people have different desires to do different kinds of things, and I just have this, it's just God-given desire to paint. Like I cannot not paint. And I really love it. And I use mostly watercolors and acrylic,
So tell
mostly
me a little bit more
abstract.
about your art. It's just obviously abstract predominantly. Do you draw any sort of specific figures or any specific geometric shapes or forms? Do you have any kind of symbology behind most of your art? It's obviously amazing that I guess you paint every day now since 2011 almost, or
Ideally, it doesn't always work out every day. I work full time. I love my job. I'm a respiratory therapist in a hospital. I've been a respiratory therapist for 41 years. But working, I feel like gives me more fuel to paint. Like I don't want to quit my job. I love my job and I don't paint to try to make enough money to quit working. That's not my motivation. I feel like the busy life that I lead helps to contribute to my expression artistically. But I do a lot of like intuitive, emotional kind of painting where I don't know what I'm going to do at all and I just start painting. And it feels really if when I paint, it feels magical because I'm completely present. Sometimes in life it's hard to be completely present, but when I'm at the canvas or at the paper with the paint and the utensils and things, I feel like there's nothing holding me back. I can do whatever I want, and it's a liberating feeling. And when I start painting and I'm completely present and completely immersed in it, it feels magical, like time stops. And but there is a lot of symbolism in my paintings because it just comes out in abstraction, but I'm always in the back of my mind thinking about paradox and contrast and humanity and vulnerability and your senses and human, all these things kind of come out in my abstraction. So I think it's heavy. My art is heavy with symbolism, sometimes more than after I paint it, I look at it and I feel more of it even coming out, express it. Like sometimes it actually feels like when I'm really in the moment, it feels like the painting is happening to me. It's like I'm not completely aware of what I'm doing, like bypass my thinking processes, which I think is a fantastic thing. It's sort of like when somebody is skiing down the slopes for the Red Bull commercial, they're not thinking about their next move. They're just doing it. And I love that. I think that's beautiful. I love it when people are so into what they do that they bypass their thought processes. So that's kind of like what I love when I get to the painting and I'm completely there and I'm just picking up utensils and just doing things and experimenting. I'm not thinking about what I'm going to do. I'm just doing it. And it just feels like magic. But I do think sometimes I'm not a mystic and I'm not a lunatic. So sometimes I do think, and I actually want to get better at being an artist. So I'll even approach it academically sometimes. I mean, I'll study perspective and composition and value and all these things. I want to be well-rounded and I want to be open to learning new things. So yeah, there's a lot of symbolism, but I'm very motivated by so many different kinds of things. Mostly like water, trees, light, nature. I love water. I love the way it moves. I love the way light shines off the water, the reflections. I love it when I put on goggles and go underwater in a pool and look at the pool lit up under in the water underneath there. It's so beautiful to me. Um, I love trees, and sometimes, even though my art is very abstract, trees do come out a lot. I end up painting a lot of trees. I think it's so beautiful how there's so much randomness in nature and in trees, like how the branches are and how they look. You couldn't, I think sometimes people try to create photographs, try to be real detailed and particular and get every little corner right. Well, I like to just throw it up there because the randomness is beautiful and that's what nature looks like. It's kind of mostly random. I also love to see what the paint does on its own because it has its own unique qualities and it will surprise you. And the randomness gives the freedom for the paint to do its thing as well. And I also love mechanics and physics and things like this. And sometimes I'll have elements in my painting that sort of look mechanical or stuff
It,
like
it
that.
it seems a lot like there's so many different parts of your I guess things that you've learned along the way that you somehow adapt into your art. But did you ever ultimately actually study or take courses? Because you mentioned that you want to get better at it and you want to learn. Was it kind of a learning by doing kind of thing over the years, or a little bit of both, and you actually took some courses previously?
It's mostly learning by doing. I've looked at different artists online. I've watched YouTube videos. I've not done any like formal courses, but a few months ago I found this really cool set of books at a thrift store, and it was called the the Master Painter's Art Course, and it was created in the 60s by these famous artists, including Norman Rockwell and some others that made this. They had created this mail-in art program where they give you these lessons and then they give you an assignment and then you paint this picture and then mail it in for their criticism. And this was from the 60s. So it's very academic and it teaches you about how the masters learned to paint. So I read through that and I feel like it gives me a lot of information about painting. I mean, and I'll practice like some of the things they say practice, carry a sketchbook with you and sketch and these things. I'll do these practices because I want to be better. I want to get better. I want to be the best artist I can be. I want to express myself. I want to look at my painting and say, "Yes, that's what I meant." But also I'm open to evolving into something or doing something different with my art. I just like to keep an open mind about it and keep it fresh. I
Do
always
you
want
feel
it to
like
be
your art
fresh.
has evolved over the years, in terms of adding new techniques and stuff like that, or you think Like if I were to look at one of your paintings from maybe several years ago compared to one of today's, have you adapted new techniques along the way? And is it still a mix of watercolor and acrylic and stuff, or have you kind of changed um, your technique in some sort of ways over the years?
Well, when you look at my work over the past 20 years, it looks a lot the same, very abstract, lots of bright colors, bold strokes. But I think I'm just on the cusp of an evolution. Like I painted a picture last week and I was determined not to be minimalist because my paintings are very minimal. So I paint them and I feel like I can't go back and touch it again. Like I put the initial strokes on, I feel like I can't change it because it's finished. Like and I'm trying to teach myself it's not finished. I can keep going. I can add more elements. I can add more things. I don't have to stop. So I'm trying to adapt in that way. And I painted a picture, and I would call it the opposite of minimalism. I kept adding to it. So I think it's taken me somewhere. I'm not sure.
When you start, because you t telling me that you obviously add different features and different things as you go along, and you spoke a lot about like spontaneity and just kind of being in the moment as you're painting. But when you start, do you usually have some sort of plan, or is it somehow kind of super spontaneous in the spur of a moment kind of thing that you just go along with it? And if you do have a plan, is it something that you take from the th different things that you're seeing, or do you kind of translate or transport an image or a portrait that you're seeing onto a canvas in an abstract way, or is everything just kind of in the spur of the moment?
It's kind of both. It's kind of complex. In some ways, I'll paint like I do a lot of landscapes and a lot of abstract landscapes because I'll feel this. I know that there's lots of places on this earth that I've never seen, and there's such a variety of landscapes and different for rock formations and cliffs and all different kinds of waterfalls and things that I've never seen. Probably I'll never see all of it, but it feels like I drop into a space that I've never been and I paint it. It's just really weird. And then I just feel that space. And then the weirdest thing is like a few weeks later or something, I'll see a picture in a magazine of some remote area and I'm like, that's what I was painting. But but I don't always go completely by the seat of my pants. I'll take screenshots on my phone of artists that I like or of a picture that I think looks good or a face or anything that really speaks to me and then I'll print off these pictures. So I'll have a stack of pictures and I'll use those as a starting point for a painting. I'm also very intrigued by scale, like the the tiniest molecular thing all the way to the cosmic. I'm very intrigued by scale. Like I might try to draw something from my aunt's view or from a cosmos. That just really intrigues me. And also time. So all the way from a microsecond to eons. I got this feeling when I'm painting, like I'm painting for generations. Like this is covering all of humanity. I'm gonna cover it like in this canvas. I don't know. It's just weird, but the microsecond, it's like when you're walking, like you may be walking downtown on a beautiful day and you turn the corner and there's this microsecond of a moment of something that you see or sense a reflection or just the way the light hits the manhole cover or anything. It just, it kind of like hits you. But those moments are not expressed. They're just stuck in there. You just had it. But those little tiny microsecond moments of inspiration and of awareness of something that I like to try to capture that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I can totally relate. I've also had one of those they call them kind of like those magical moments where you don't know what it is and you can't explain it, but if you go
Yeah.
back 20 years after, you can go back to that precise moment and you say, man, that moment just
Yeah.
felt like I don't know what was it, if it was the place or the combination of so many different things, but I definitely have you also because you have obviously the cosmic kind of background. So I figured
Yeah.
you were a little bit into that. You mentioned, I think you might have mentioned physics and stuff before. Do you relate a lot of the stuff that you kind of studied and interest you in terms of topics, and you apply any of that as well deeply into your art?
Yeah. Um, Yeah, I'm a respiratory therapist, and we'd had to study physics in school, and I really like physics. And there's a lot of physics in the breathing process and mechanically ventilating somebody. There's a lot of physics and mechanics involved, and it comes up in my paintings in various ways for sure. Um, I'm also intrigued by things like the golden mean, the spiral and the seashell, and different the natural geometrics and things like that. Yep.
What do you enjoy most about everything that you mentioned from the art side, Nancy? Like, is it more the process of making the art? Because obviously you mentioned you feel disconnected, you feel like you're just at one, which I get a lot of that from artists, but at the same time, I get, the opposite from a lot of artists as well. They said they don't like so much the process, they just like to see the finishing and stuff. So you get a little bit of everything, but from everything that you've talked
Mhm.
about, I mean, you mentioned obviously symbolism, you mentioned how it relates a little bit to your career, you mentioned the spontaneity of things, you mentioned how you capture things in the moment and then you try to translate that into the canvas. But out of all these things, what is it that really drives you the most? Is it more the process of doing it? Is it the end result? Is it the symbolism that you're putting into the art? Is it a mix of everything, really? Or what is it that kind of stands out the most when you're doing the art?
It's a mix of everything, but I feel like when all of the variables come into play that create an artist with a paintbrush and a canvas, it really it's not that easy. Like it's not that easy to actually have a jar of paint and a paintbrush in your hand and an empty canvas in front of you. It sounds simple, but for all these variables to happen, for you to have the space, for you to have the motivation, for you to have the idea, all of it is kind of a miracle that it happens and then a person actually creates something. And I think the act of creating, I believe, is like sacred. I mean, like we're created in God's image and we're created to be creators. And that when I create something, it feels it sounds crazy, but it feels healing. I mean, it feels like it helps me to express something that I need to express. And I believe that the creating of it is the important part, even if it evaporated after you painted it. I mean, I feel like I'm a child drawing on chalk on the sidewalk because I'm just doing this. It's just playful. It's just in me. And if it gets washed away, so be it. I'm just doing this. I mean, I do want to make money with my paintings. Don't get me wrong. I'd like to make money because I'd like to buy more paint. But I'm not looking to get rich or to quit my side job or anything like that. I just painting in itself, I do it for the process.
Do you enjoy also kind of the reaction that you get from the people that obviously admire your works after they're done? And do you
Yeah,
have any sort of similarities from kind of the reactions that people get over the years? Is there some sort of like uniformity between how people react to your artworks, or some sort of symbolism that everyone says like, "Oh, wow, that makes me feel this way," or "That makes me feel that way," or
that's interesting because, not everybody appreciates abstract art. Some do, some love it, and then some people think it's monkey business. But I get some feedback on Instagram and Facebook, not a whole lot, but I haven't put myself out there a lot. I would like to do that more. That's why I'm doing this interview because I've been hesitant to put myself out there. Um, I don't, when I start to market myself or create the business of art, somehow I lose a little bit of motivation. But I get positive feedback from people, and I love to hear the feedback. And when I'm painting a picture, I actually sometimes am thinking about the people who will view it. Like I'm thinking about I want to inspire people. I want to create inspiration and comfort, and I want to impact them in some way with the painting. I want it to speak to them. So.
when you
I'm
say you
thinking
think
about
about
the audience as I'm painting.
when you say you think about the audience and the people that are viewing it, is that you have kind of like a target, I don't want to say target market, but the target audience in a nutshell, whilst you're creating that painting, and then you kind of tailor that painting to that audience? Or is it more the fact that you've created something and you feel that this thing that you've created mainly relates to a certain type of audience, and therefore that's when you kind of get that aha moment where you're like, oh man, this would be perfect for this audience.
Well, I actually want my art to be like universal, like for any audience and anywhere in the world. It's more of a universal kind of thing. I want to be able to speak to anybody that has a soul, like they can see it and feel it.
You mentioned a lot that your art heals, and you find it like as a healing. Is it also from the look and feel as an outsider when you're looking at your art, or is it more a healing process as you're creating the art itself?
It is for me as I'm creating it, but I would love for it to be healing for other people. I mean, that would be fantastic. That would be like the ultimate. And I have had people tell me, wow, that scene is just it just feels like comfort. Like I look at it, it just makes me feel peaceful, you know. I really like that kind of feedback, but that's that would be the ultimate goal for my art to impact people in a positive way. And to get it out there. I want to get it out there more because my
Have
house is filling up with it.
Yeah, that's usually a good sign that you need to get it out there. And the other thing I wanted
Yeah.
to ask you, Nancy, have you also learned a lot about yourself whilst creating all these obviously different paintings? Because there's so many different things that you mentioned that is kind of part of the life's learning process, if you will, and also towards
Mhm.
your audience. But have you yourself learned more about yourself whilst creating these paintings over the years?
Definitely I have, but that would just give me a lot to think on because I would need to think about that to articulate exactly what I have learned. But I think you have to always have a beginner mind, like always feel like you're just starting and not to be too too much of a critic. Just be free, just take the risk and just paint it. Taking risk is a good part of being an artist because you don't know if something's going to work or not. And experimenting and exploring is also a really good way to learn and to grow.
What would you say is obviously taking risk, and there's definitely other factors involved that have helped you, become the artist that you are today. But what would you say on the flip side of that, are have been the most challenging things for you as an artist, and maybe some pointers that you could give, some more young and up and coming artists. I mean, you've been doing this kind of frequently already since 2011. Whether they've sold tons or whatever it may be. I mean, the fact is you're still doing that frequently, as on top of having, your respiratory job at the same time. So I think that's obviously telltale sign that you're obviously really passionate about art. But throughout all these years, what has been the most call it challenging thing for you as an artist, whether that was starting or still is kind of ongoing at the moment?
I would say that it is the fact that as an artist, you're always looking for that space, like to be able to create. You're trying to create the time and the space and the materials, and you're looking for this setup so that you can express yourself. And I feel like I was told by another artist not too long ago who taught me this, which I think is very, very important, that you don't have to create that. You just do it. You don't have to be all alone to paint. You don't have to have all these things. You don't have to have certain number of square feet. You can just do it. Like, so the hardest part was, see, I also have 8 grandkids and I have people all around me all the time. And that's been the hardest part for me is I wanted to isolate myself. I wanted to have my own little corner that's private. I don't want anybody to look at me. I want to be able to paint this, leave me alone. But I need to be able to do this with people around and not just clam up because somebody walks into the room, but just paint in front of God and everybody. Even if it was public painting or whatever, I need to be more free with the painting and not have it to be a private isolation experience. I
Do you
think
come from
that's
a
where I'm growing towards.
do you come from an art family in general, or are you kind of one of the few that obviously pursued that for the most part, whether you do it 100% as a career or not? I mean, still from the amount of from the frequency that you do it in, is there anybody else in your family that obviously is in the
Well,
art scene, and do you feel like
I
you have
have
roots?
I have aunts and cousins and things. The aunts have passed on, but I think there's a lot of artistic people, musicians, art, and things in my family. But the biggest, the biggest thing is my grandkids. Like I have eight artist grandchildren. Like they're all artists, and some of them actually have been in prestigious art shows. Three of them actually, and because their parents are supplying the goods, teaching them to hold the paintbrushes as soon as they're able to grasp anything, and they're have all the access to all the materials, and they're painting. We get together, I get together with them, we paint together, we paint outside, we paint inside, we paint when we're camping, and these kids have become quite good artists.
Do they
It's
inspire you
amazing. I
to
like
paint
painting
more?
with kids. They do because they're also not afraid. They're not afraid to paint, and it frees you up to just paint whatever you want, you know. You can paint something bad, it's fine. You can throw something away. It doesn't matter. You just enjoy the process and enjoy the kids. So it's been great. But yeah, they've become really good artists.
That's really nice. And
And
if
they're very encouraging to me too. They're my fan club.
That's always good to have. It's always good to have. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of artists, they're really I don't want to say solo in the sense that they don't interact with anybody or anything like that, but solo in the sense that they don't really have a lot of peers that are also driven to art. So in a sense, they feel a little bit more of that loneliness feeling, but then a chance to also have that independence that you need in order to express yourself. So the fact that obviously you're surrounded by so many of these, artists' grandchildren, I think must be definitely inspiring and
Mhm.
also inspiring you to create more and more, right? I wanted to also ask
Yeah.
you, like, looking now ahead, say, I don't know, 5, 10 years down the road, or ultimately, if people are acquiring a lot of your artworks, for many years to come, if you were to be recognized, as an artist, say Nancy Wall was recognized for this particular kind of art. If you were to summarize that either, in a sentence, or in a couple of words, what would you say would be, and what would you like it to be, ultimately? In other words, what would be your ultimate goal as an artist in terms of recognition, in terms of the way you want to
hmm
leave the world, or anything that you want to leave for everybody else to learn from your artwork as well?
Well, of course, I always want to have bold, fresh strokes. I don't like anything that looks overworked or too meticulous. So boldness, freshness, energy. I want energy to be in the art. But I think I'm an abstract landscape painter. That's what it seems like. I'm an abstract landscape painter. But if that could evolve into just a landscape, I'm not sure. But yeah, I would just want to be I would just want sometimes I will paint something if I'm in a particular mood or whatnot. I want to have freedom in my painting, and I'll just paint something bizarre and I'll just post it because I want people to see I'm also bizarre. I mean, I don't always paint what you want me to paint. One time I painted these gray vertical stripes, and I put like some spots on them, and I posted it and I called it sticks. Actually got a lot of likes.
Also
It
do
was
Yeah. commission work, like if somebody wants a particular type of artwork. I mean, you mentioned that, you don't like limitations, you like to kind of just go with the flow. But if somebody actually, whether that's
Mhm.
family or actual
Yeah.
collectors, if they say they want a specific type of art, whether that's a scene
Mhm.
that they've seen, a landscape, etc., do you also accommodate to that, or is
Mhm.
it something you don't really like to do in general?
I've had a little bit of hard time with that, although I'm not closed-minded. I tried a commission once. I was trying to paint what they wanted me to paint, but I ended up painting what I wanted to paint. It was too abstract. And then my son, I painted a picture for my son. I painted a picture, my son loved it. He took it. Now he wants me to paint a compliment to it. He wants me to paint a sister painting to this painting. And I'm just having a really hard time with that. I don't know why. But when I did the mural that for in 2012, I did the tugboat mural that was 20 feet long. I had somebody come up to me and ask me, "Would you be willing to paint a mural in a restaurant?" And I was like, "Yes." I'm like, I think I could do that kind of commission where I could paint a mural, but when it comes to a smaller painting, it's harder. I don't know, that's weird, but people like somebody might say, "Oh, I want you to paint a picture of my dog." And I'm like, I can do that, but it probably is not going to look anything like your dog because of my tendency to be abstract. It's not going to be like a photograph.
Yeah.
I mean, I could paint when I paint something, I want it to be myself. I don't want to paint it to look exactly like something else. But commissioned, I've not had that many opportunities for commissions. I don't know how much I would struggle with that. But like I said, the mural sounded fun. I think I could do that. I really love to paint large projects. I would love to have my own studio just so I could paint big.
Do you
I want
feel
to
like
flail my
pro
arms about.
Do you feel like projects like that, such as the one you, for example, did at a restaurant, would, because that's something that we're obviously looking at. I mean, we've had so many different artists come to us and say, "Hey, if only we could work on more different projects like that, or become a part of things like a hotel or a culinary at a restaurant, think places where people really get to see and admire work, as opposed to just having it at home." Is that
Yeah,
something that you feel that would obviously be a lot helpful for artists in a new, unique way in terms of
yeah,
showcasing art.
I
And
think
and
so.
and if
Yeah,
so,
because
what
you
would be
get a
some
lot more
ideal
eyes on it.
places to do it in, aside from restaurants and walls and stuff?
I'm not sure. For Art Prize one year, I was going to be commissioned to paint on an entire building. I was going to turn the building into a pirate ship, but they rethought that and they reneged on that project. But um, I don't know. I think big and bold is really fun. Um,
Do you generally
any
paint
type of
big, or is it?
I did in the beginning until I realized that it was too expensive and I didn't really have enough space. So I had to accommodate what I had. You have to use what you have. And I didn't have a room that big, and I didn't have enough money at the time to buy all that paint. That's
But ultimately, you enjoy
a lot
more.
of paint.
You enjoy painting in big better than in small, if you will.
I do.
And are you working on any series right now, Nancy, or any special projects at the moment?
Um, I have like I bought like 29 by 12 canvases, and I'm just like whipping them out, just practicing, just not really big projects, more like just getting the strokes on the canvas to get the experience to keep painting. Like I feel like it's a practice. And I've got about 20 panels and 20 canvases, and I'm alternating between them, just going through them all day, every day, just painting. It's
Awesome.
not really something I'm just planning on selling. It's just practice. But
Okay.
also I had surgery a few weeks ago, so I haven't really been all that energetic with it in the past few weeks.
And
Yeah.
in terms of exhibitions, do you actually do also a lot of either solo exhibitions or with other artists, or any things within your community that either are upcoming now or maybe in the near future?
I've had some exhibitions with this company called All Artworks in Grand Rapids, which was a business that spun off of ArtPrize. And they had an exhibition last fall, and I was in that in the DeVos Place, downtown Grand Rapids. And they also have a studio where they have art shows. I've been in some shows there. Um, Nothing really other than what I do with you guys, having stuff displayed in Hong Kong, which was cool, and New York Times Square. I like that. I like getting my work out there like that.
How do you see the role in terms of what we are doing? Obviously, we deal more on the digital spectrum, but impactful places like HK and New York and London, which we do also, Miami and Vegas. How do you see the role of that, like, in the future as well?
I like it a lot. It's very interesting to be using your digital work for a show because you don't have to do as much prep. But I think it's great because a lot of more eyeballs get to see it, and then the Instagram handle is there too, so they can look it up. So I love it. It
Do you
suits me very
find
well.
Do you find it challenging at all for you to display your artworks in digital form, whether that's in social media or, because I know obviously art abstract can be a little bit trickier to see it on a digital screen as opposed to seeing it, say, in a wall. Is it for
Yeah.
you a little bit more challenging? Yet at the same time, obviously, you can target a much broader audience. But is it in general, from an outsider looking at the painting, is it a little bit more? Do you feel it's obviously significantly different when you're viewing it as at a screen as opposed to viewing it live in physical form?
I think live in physical form is best because you can see the strokes and things better and a little more up close. But the pieces that I submit for the digital shows, they're selected because they do look okay in that format. I mean, there are some other paintings that I have I don't think would be appreciated as much digitally, but a lot of the abstract paintings do work in that format.
Awesome. And finally, in terms of Plogix in itself, what you obviously enjoy the most about us as a community, and what would you like to see a little bit more in terms of, what we can do either differently or new in order to obviously keep exposing artists the way we do and maybe even take it a step further.
I don't know. I love the way you guys innovate and keep expanding your business, and I like it because I'm not that into thinking about business, and I love that you are because then you do what I don't want to do. I mean, I want to paint. I just want to paint. I just want to paint and just give them to somebody. You deal with it. You take it somewhere, show it, because I'm not really into the marketing process. I'm not into the business end of being an artist, but I should be.
Yeah,
I
that's a
should
really
be more.
good point. And I mean, we get a lot from artists, they want to focus on doing what they love and get somebody else do the marketing. And I think that's a great component of
Mhm.
where we come in. And then obviously taking that step further to put you guys, in such impactful places that not only you can expose yourself to a wider audience, but at the same you can take that memorabilia, have good footage of it, and then either reshare it on
Mhm.
your own social channels or keep
Mhm.
it for yourself to showcase some of your collectors. So I think it's a mix
Mhm.
of obviously
Yeah.
a lot of things. For those watching, Nancy, if we have anybody interested aside from Plogix itself, do you also have a website of your own that you maybe want to share, or any other contact details for those that may be interested in some of your works or some of your latest works that you have going on now?
Yes, I post most of my stuff on Instagram, and my handle is at n.my.wall, n.my.wall, because my
And
name is Nancy Myers Wall, so that's short.
end up mine dot wall, and
N.my,
we will add
N.Y,
it also
n.my.wall.
below when we finalize it. Super. Well, everything's been really wonderful. Obviously, getting to know you, getting to know your background, getting to know your love for the cosmics and physics, and obviously
Mhm.
inspiring your audience and nature and healing.
Mhm.
It's really been wonderful. I mean, we obviously definitely interested in working with you in many more showcases to come, seeing a lot more of your works, and then obviously featuring a lot of your new ones that come up. So thanks again,
Cool.
Nancy.
Thank you.
Great having
Thank
you
you.
on our channel, and looking forward to seeing
Mhm.
what comes next.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram to support our artists.